What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for the match review stream after a long journey home last night from Brighton. We have lost by 3-2, and it was a really hard one to take yesterday. It really was. Look, you know how the stream goes. We're going to go match review, player ratings, 5 takeaways, and then see how the internet did react to the game. But let's get straight into the match review. It was an absolute shambles yesterday on the pitch at the Amex. And you know how the old saying goes, when Spurs fans get too confident, they like to throw it back in your face. And we most definitely did that. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a Spurs fan who didn't predict the Spurs win going into the game yesterday. And then even more so at half-time, be hard pressed to find a Spurs fan who didn't think we were going to go on in the second half and absolutely batter them. Because that's what was happening in the first half. We absolutely were playing brilliant. We were playing brilliantly. We were creating chances. I thought Dom Solanke, Decky and Brennan Johnson were causing havoc down that right-hand side. Dom Solanke was heavily involved in both goals. Brennan Johnson gets 6 and 6. And at half-time, it just all looked so rosy, didn't it?
Yeah, and to be fair, in that first half, you know, when we looked at the match preview and we're discussing how the game was going to go, it pretty much was going exactly as we thought it would go. Tottenham were able to get in behind time and time again. Werner and Johnson causing all sorts of problems on the wings. You had Maddison, Decky, Solanke linking up really well in the centre. I thought Solanke was having a brilliant game. He obviously got a brilliant assist for Brennan's goal. He put in Timo in behind very early on as well, like for that chance in the first minute. Brighton did have a bit of joy out on the left-hand side with Matoma, but apart from the chance for Welbeck, didn't really trouble us too much. Van der Ven and Romero were kind of mopping everything up on their sides. I thought Romero, his passing was phenomenal. I thought he was really setting Tottenham up on attack. Kulusevski was getting all sorts of joy down that right-hand side as well. And obviously we made it pay with two nice goals. Obviously we had that goal ruled out from VAR as well, just before we scored the first one. I think it was within like a few seconds after we had that goal ruled out. We won 1-0 up. Yeah. And it was all like literally all going to plan. It was all really rosy. And even like the Spurs players had this sense of like, just like how comfortable they were in the game. And I think going into half time, maybe they thought the game was won because, you know, you saw the celebrations of the second goal. I thought, maybe once we went 2-0 up, everyone thought, you know, with that lead, we'll just see out the game and it was just going to be comfortable from then on. But we should have known a team like Brighton, who've got all that attacking talent and who weren't really on their game in the first half, were always going to come out a bit and be a lot more physical and try fine. Welbeck said at half-time, it wasn't about tactics or anything like that. It was about being able to be more aggressive and be up for the fight, which they weren't up for in the second half. And we weren't up for it. They weren't up for it in the first half, and we weren't up for it in the second half, and that completely changed the game. Didn't help at all that the defence the defence was an absolute shit show in that second half. The defensive errors we were making. If you actually look at the situation, like everyone's obviously going to there'll be a lot of, in my opinion, analysis about Ange and his high line, all this kind of stuff. But if you look at the defensive situations we were in before we conceded, I mean, just before we conceded, we're in very good situations, but a lot of terrible errors, a lot of constant errors from a few defenders meant that we failed to deal with a number of situations which on another day we should really been dealing with, and that cost us big time. And we ended up losing the game from a position where we should never be losing from. And it's hard to take because, as I say, first half, it was all going so well. We were playing some brilliant football and just looked like it was so easy to open up Brighton. And the fact that we gave up that situation and ended up losing is hard to take. It
really is. And I completely agree with you. That's one of the points I was going to make coming into this, because I've seen a lot of criticism for Ange coming into it. And look, he should come under criticism, no doubt about it, because he should have made changes a lot earlier, but I don't think that's exactly what lost us the game. What lost us the game was players not showing the fundamentals in that second half. They did not want the fight. They were not up for the battle whatsoever. Doggy was getting terrorised down that left-hand side. Van der Ven was getting ripped a new one by Minte. I mean, how many times did Minte just stroll past a Van der Ven, which we haven't seen ever, probably, from Mickey. Romero, there was some embarrassing defending in there from Romero as well. Lazy challenges being put in. Danny Welbeck literally just strolls in between Porro and Romero for that goal to get himself a free header in the box. Where is the defence? It's just embarrassing, that kind of defending for that third goal. When you know that the Brighton have just come back from 2-0 down, and then a few minutes later you're just letting Welbeck just stroll past you, just casually. It was unbelievable what I was seeing. And Doggy had his hand in 3 of those goals. It brings the question, was he fit enough to start this game? I don't know.
He looked in the first half all right.
He looked okay. But I don't think it was maybe what we've seen from him for, coming in the build-up to this game from a Doggy. I don't think it was as good as maybe, I can't remember the games off my head, but the games where he's performed really well in, like the first half of Manchester United. I think it was a far cry from that. But the individual errors was disgraceful, nothing short of disgraceful, and it's unacceptable. You can't. There's a clear mentality problem at this football club, because we sit here and talk about this time and time again under copious different managers, under copious different players, and it's hard to put your finger on what it actually is. But to go 2-0 up and to put in such a like they just looked like they were just sapped of energy. It's like they were playing in gear 5 in the first half, and then second half they went all the way down to 1, and they said it on Match of the Day last night. Like if you start at gear 5 and then you go all the way to 1, it's hard to get back up. And I think that's exactly what we saw on that pitch yesterday. And it's really hard to take. It really is, because after seeing your team perform so well, to so shit all in the space of 90 minutes, it's just like only Tottenham, man. Only Tottenham can do this to you.
Mm-hmm. And what's really frustrating is that, as I say, in the first half, the structure and the system was looking brilliant, and it was obviously carrying on that trajectory well for coming into this game off the back of 5 wins, and we're looking really good. Obviously, a really great win at Old Trafford last week, got a good win in midweek as well, away in Europe, and to be 2-0 up at a difficult away day like Brighton in the manner that we were was impressive, and I thought we were really impressive in that first half, and I think Ange completely called it after the game, saying there was a lack of fundamentals and there was a lack of being up for the fight. And I think the stat, if you go into on SofaScore, I think the stat tells the story of if you look at the duels in the first half, it says here. 60,
is that on SofaScore?
Yeah, you go on stats and you scroll down onto there's defensive stats when you scroll down.
Oh yeah, if you bring it up.
If you go to the first half, duels won, it says here 68% duels won in the first half, 80% of tackles won in the first half as well. So we were just, this is what I was saying for the game. You need to win that midfield battle, because whoever controls that midfield is going to be able to find the spaces in behind. Because,
and that was the second half, by the way.
And then second half,
40% tackles won.
40% tackles won, and the duels won dropped to 54% from 68. So a big drop off there as well.
This one says 58%.
54% I've got here.
We've got the app and the website showing us different.
Won 50. Maybe you're looking at overall.
No, it says first half 68%, second half 58%. But anyway, it's only a 4% difference.
No, here, the duels. I'm looking overall duels here.
Oh, overall duels. Yeah. 54%. I'm looking at ground duels.
So a big drop off on the first half, and that can cost you. Even a 10% drop off, like it was in the second half, can cost you. And obviously, tackles won. Clearly, that's a big drop off. And we were just putting in lazy legs. You say Romero was getting his timing wrong. Van de Ven was getting spun like I've never seen him get spun before. The Doggy for the third goal, just letting Rutter walk through him like he wasn't even there.
Bentancur was nowhere to be seen in that second half as well.
Third one, why isn't he putting it out of play? I don't know what he's thinking for that third goal, Bentancur. I think he's trying to see it out of play and get a goal kick, and he allows Rutter to get a sliding challenge and get round him. And actually, not only does he get a sliding challenge in, he puts an inch-perfect cross right into Welbeck's head. But Bentancur has to be dealing with that situation, making sure he gets his body in the way that even if Rutter does win a sliding tackle, that he cannot let that ball go across the face of goal like that. If he has to put out for a corner, put out for a corner. He cannot allow Rutter to get that cross in. Romero not looking around to see where Welbeck is. I think, in fairness to Romero, he expects Bentancur to deal with this situation, but if you're a defender,
there's no fairness to Romero in that situation. I'm sorry. Yes, fine, he should be expecting the defender to deal with it on the left-hand side, but You have to have some awareness about you're a World Cup winning defender. You've got to be ready for every single situation and scenario.
But
there's no to be fair to Romero.
From his point of view, we're about to win the ball back. We're in control of that situation. He doesn't expect the ball to be coming across.
But you still need to be aware of every situation.
I understand that. I'm not saying he's not at fault, because if you're a defender, you have to expect the worst. You have to be prepared for the worst, not what's it called? Not planning for us regaining control of the situation. But with the Brighton player didn't have the ball at that point. We had the ball. Bentancur, he was in control of the situation, and it probably took him by surprise that Rutter obviously got the ball across the face of goal, and by that point it's too late because Welbeck's got the run on him. But Romero has to be aware that there's a striker in the box, and if Rutter does get something on that, then we're in trouble if he's not alive to the situation, and he wasn't alive to the situation. So absolutely, he has to take blame for that. But I put a lot more blame on Udogie and Bentancur because they both had control of that situation at that point. Udogie, we actually had 3 men around Rutter. That is disgraceful how we allowed him just to get to the byline, and Bentancur was in control of that situation before he allowed Rutter to get the slide challenge in.
In all 3 of the goals that we conceded, we were actually in good defensive shape. We were actually looked like we had all the situations under control for all 3 goals, and it was just individual errors. That's why I don't understand people coming in and disgracing and complaining about Ange's tactics. There was nothing wrong with Ange's tactics in this game. It was all individuals that lost us that game yesterday. And, you know, I complained, and a lot of people were complaining in the stadium about the subs, and we should have brought on subs earlier, which is true. We should have. You saw after the first goal, we were struggling. After the second goal, we were struggling. And then he waits until 5-10 minutes after we concede the third goal to make changes. And 100%, the changes need to come earlier. Bring on Bissouma, give us a bit of extra legs in midfield where we were clearly struggling. However, even if he does make those changes, I really don't think it probably changed a thing, to be honest.
Well, it's hard to know, but because I think what's it called, the midfield 3 were completely non-existent. I think for sure after the second goal, I think you just got to take Udogie off because he was clearly struggling.
And you got Spence right there, just waiting.
Okay, you know, I don't know whether, as you say, he was struggling because did we rush him back from injury or whatever. As you said, I thought he looked all right in the first half. I didn't see any problems, but second half clearly. He wasn't himself, and he was getting absolutely spun, which is not like Udogie. He's usually, he's so physical. He's usually good in those moments. So the fact he was getting spun like he was.
What was he doing for the first goal, by the way? The first.
What was he doing? Clearance. He got the misjudged clearance. What I don't like about that from the first goal wasn't that he got the clearance wrong, which obviously is a bad mistake. But for some reason, once he gets that wrong, what he should be doing is charging right at Minter and making sure that he tries to get a block on. He kind of just waited for Minter to have the shot. He kind of just stood there waiting. I think maybe he was paralysed. Wasn't sure if he should go off the line or something. But he should just be charging him into making sure he's getting as close as possible to him so he can block the shot. But as soon as he misjudges it, he just kind of allows, Minter had time to just wait for the ball to drop and just score into the near post. I think Udogie had a bit of time just to charge at him, and he didn't do it, which is really, really frustrating. But yeah, he got obviously the clearance really wrong, and it falls to Minter, and they score. Udogie obviously Van der Ven slides and get his clearance, also gets that wrong for the cross from Mitoma, which was a good cross, but Van der Ven, we had Van der Ven and Udogie both there, and they both failed to deal with it. The second goal, once Mitoma picks up the ball in a pocket of space, again, gives it off to Rutter, and he's got 2 men on him. He's got Udogie covering, and he's got Van der Ven there as well. Both of them just so weak, none of them putting a challenge in. And I know Rutter's a good dribbler. Clearly, he's good in those tight spaces. But you got to have something about you, even if it means just bring him down or making a foul. You can't allow Rutter to get in behind like that when you've got 2 defenders there, in front of him. They didn't even get behind him. They were both in front of him. One of you's got to put a foot in, and they were just both weak in the challenge. And the third goal is probably the worst of the lot. Absolute shambles from the whole defence, to be honest. So it was just when you're defending like that, it wasn't about structure at all. It wasn't like they were just catching us off guard and catching us in behind, and we kept getting caught. It was just we had control of those situations, and lapses from individuals. It was absolutely damning. And I mean, I can understand Ange's anger and frustration after that game, because how we can allow those situations, all three of them we were in control of, to end in goals like they were. And in the end, when you look at like the start of those moves to the end, like you won't be able to believe they end up in those situations. Like it's just incredible. So, but I guess a worrying thing is not only how we felt to deal with those situations, but there was a lack of reaction. There was no response from the team. We didn't know how to deal with Brighton up in their game. All of a sudden, we were weak. We were just forced into going long. There was no ability to build up and play through the lines like we were in that first half. It was just like all of a sudden it was like lazy. It was almost as if like if we just knock it long, we can just stay out this game rather than continue to fight to play our football, which we usually very good at doing. Decky wasn't getting on the ball. I thought Madders was horrific. Werner was getting in behind that first half. We didn't see him at all in that second half. Brennan as well. Solanke, wasn't dropping deep and getting on the ball. We didn't see any of them in that second half, and they all have to take responsibility for that as well. And that is the most frustrating thing. Didn't have the ability to hurt Brighton. It's almost as if like we did our stuff in the first half, and we thought we don't need to continue to battle because we've won the game already. And I think Ange said it after the game. We felt like in that second half we're going to just come out and continue to play well. We didn't have to battle to earn the right to do that. And it's almost as if like we felt like we felt like we earned the right to kind of sack it off in the second half after how well we played, and that's completely unacceptable. And to be fair, under Ange, I think that's the first time we've given up a 2-goal lead, and we're usually very good in those situations when we take control of games. And yesterday was the first time we've probably seen that from our team, where we've got on ourselves in such a commanding situation and just sacked it off, and that's something that Ange has got to deal with.
It's worrying. It is a worrying. It was worrying to see that on the pitch yesterday. We had no answers to anything. Like we could not. We weren't even attempting to break them down in the second half. We were just playing these stupid passes. I felt like in the second half, the only one that was trying to really like break the lines or go forward or ask questions of Brighton was Kulusevski. He was the only one who I thought that was trying to do that. I thought everyone else was so bad. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing watching that on the pitch yesterday, and I was embarrassed to be there, to be honest, because it was. I've just got no words to explain what I saw on that pitch. And do we have to have a conversation about last season? We were talking about how we were playing well in second halves and not playing well in first halves. There has been a few times this season where we have played really well in first halves, and in the second half we don't really come out. The Leicester game springs to mind, where obviously we draw the game in the end, but we played very well in the first half. Should have, had that game out of sight. And then all of a sudden we come under increasing pressure, and Leicester could have easily scored 2 or 3 goals in that 15-minute, 20-minute period. You're looking at even the Manchester United game last week. We put in an unbelievable display in the first half. And then Man United start to, ask a few questions of us. And then they get the sending off. And, if they don't get the sending off, was there a question to say Man United would have got back in that game? Who knows? But there is a bit of a trend. And there's also a trend with Romero this season. Romero, how many goals is he individually accountable for this season? This guy's supposed to be a world-class winning centre-back. He's supposed to be captain. Where was his leadership ability on the pitch yesterday? There was no accountability coming from Romero. Where was he? He's supposed to be the leader in that back line. He's supposed to be marshalling that back line. He was nowhere to be seen. Where's our leaders? There was a lack of leadership completely all over that pitch yesterday. And I think that's a really hard bit to take as well. Like, where is this leadership?
Mm-hmm. It's hard. I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the dressing room. I don't know what people are saying. I don't know what's happening on the pitch, but they clearly seem to be, especially when we're under the cosh, and especially when we need to get organised and we need to make sure that, especially when Brighton get that first goal back and they're getting back at the game, you can see the momentum changing. Sometimes you just got to get compact and I think you just need someone to get everyone together and say, look, they're clearly getting back in the game. We need everyone for the next 10 minutes or so just to really battle hard for the team. Everyone do their defensive duties and everyone get together and just get organised. And there didn't seem anyone who was doing that. It's almost like when we let in a goal, everyone's quiet, everyone's just looking at each other, and it's almost like no one knows how to react. And we're not very good at when the momentum switches at dealing with that and stemming the tide. And we've always said when it comes to times in games, even the best of times, when it comes to times in games where Tottenham the momentum's going against you, and all of a sudden the opposition are having some control in the game and they're getting on our back four. We don't have it in us at the moment to kind of stay compact and go on a low block and defend properly. We've never had that under Ange. That's not been part of the way he plays. And we suffered for that kind of element yesterday, because as soon as Brighton got on top of us and as soon as they got on our back four, we had no answer to it. And we just they find it way too easy to create chances. And that is something that is a problem. And that's always been a problem under Ange. And I think the defence yesterday, it was very disorganised, everyone making bad individual errors. And I don't know if it's a lack of leadership, I don't know what the problem is, but definitely we seem to have a big issue when teams come up against us and they gain a bit of control. When they have periods in the match when they're on top, we seem to really struggle with that, and we definitely did that yesterday.
You know what I see sometimes with Romero? Like, he's great when Spurs are like on top, when Spurs are in a good mood, when Spurs are winning, when Spurs are playing well. Romero is unbelievable. He's probably one of the best centre backs in the league. But when the chips are down, when it's going against us, when we're under the cosh, when we're putting in these moments, I think Romero just has this air of, I don't know if this is the way he feels, but this is what it looks like from an outsider looking in. It just looks like he just can't be arsed with this. That's what it looks like. And it's not the first time that we've seen these kind of traits from Romero. And it's really worrying for me. It really is, because he's supposed, like I keep saying, he's supposed to be a world-class, World Cup winning centre-back. And I love him. I love him as a player. But these traits do creep into his game when we're under the cosh. Maybe not when we're under the cosh, but when we're really struggling. And when things are going against us. He's the one that's supposed to be standing up and really, really taking it for the team and really, making everyone step up. But he's not. He goes hiding. And the whole of the team went hiding yesterday. Every single one of them. And I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just every time with Spurs, you think you've turned the corner. I said after the Brentford game, look, I think we're on the cusp of turning the corner. After that, we went and won 4 games in a row. Albeit, we beat Karabag, we beat Ferencvaros, and in that run we beat Coventry, and a good win away at Old Trafford, who obviously they're in a really bad moment at the moment. But it felt like within the fan base, and it felt like watching the team on the pitch, that we have turned the corner. But every time with Spurs, it's one step forward, 10 steps back. And when's it going to change?
We're Tottenham. Never another false dawn. We'll have to wait and see. Look, I know it's 3 defeats at the start of the season now in the first ever games, which is not a good return. As much as we're coming into this game with positivity off the back of 5 wins, and there was definitely positivity starting to get into the fan base. And even in this game, first half was brilliant, but you can't excuse what we saw in that second half. But it's a new problem. What we saw yesterday was a different problem to what we've seen in other games. The Newcastle game and the Leicester game was all about finishing your chances and taking advantage when you're on top. Yesterday we did take advantage. We were going to half-time 2-0 up. Yes, you could say we should be 3 or 4 up, but 2-0, that's a good position. You can't argue, you can't complain about being 2-0 up away at Brighton at half-time. That's a position where you have to say, we did get that second goal, and we're in a position to kill off this game. And we came out in the second half as if we'd already won the game, and that's a different kind of issue that we've seen kind of in previous games. And Ange has got to make sure that complacency that doesn't seep into this group if when we're on top. And I think that was a different kind of problem to what we've seen in other games this season, where I don't think it was complacency. I think it was more kind of having what's called take advantage of when you're in control of a game. And here, we did take advantage, and we gave up control, and we allowed Brighton to bully us, and we weren't doing the fundamentals in that second half. And I don't know whether is it a fatigue thing? Is it because we play such an intense style of football that it looks like we're what's called given up? But actually, it is a fatigue thing, or is it a case of the players just getting complacent and thought the game was won? But how can you think the game was won when you concede right at the beginning of the second half? There's a whole half there. You can't continue to be complacent. Surely that goal should wake you up at least. And you should be like, all right, we conceded that goal, we're in for a game here. We need to be concentrated. No one's pulling anyone together and making sure that we're not letting our standards drop. We just let what happened yesterday happen. And I don't know.
Without
I
a
thought
fight.
Ange. I did think Ange. I know he said, and maybe he was emotional after the game yesterday, but I thought what he said about the subs was really odd, in my opinion. It was a bit of a bizarre statement. He said, yes, I could have made subs earlier, but I don't think it was about subs because, you know, the way we were playing, if we were to get something out of the game, it would have been a false result, and I can't remember what he said, something like a false positive. And
He said that he didn't want to win a game that we don't deserve to win, or something along those lines.
Yeah, but that's a bizarre comment, because your job as a manager is, when you see those kind of things happening, is to manage the game and change things when you see where we need help. If we are struggling midfield, you have to get Basuma on, you have to get Saar on. If you see Udogie struggling, you have to get Spence on and make changes and influence the game. Your job isn't just watch things happen and say, well, if the player's going to play like that, then they've put us in this position, so it's on them to turn it around, kind of thing. I think it's really odd, bizarre position to take. Like, you're the manager. Your job is to try and influence the game to get results. Your job isn't just to watch things play out and then blame the players for how things played out. Yes, the players have to take blame. Don't get me wrong, and I'm very frustrated with them. But if you're the manager, like, I don't understand why he took that stance to not influence the game earlier, because he was so angry at the players that he didn't want to influence the game because that we wouldn't have got because we deserved to lose. I mean, I think that's a really bizarre take. I don't know whether he was just emotional and he was just frustrated with the players. That's why he said that. But I don't know. I thought that was really bizarre in my opinion, because that's not what I want my manager to do. I want my manager to influence the game. I want my manager to get involved in the tactical things, make tweaks, get players on if he doesn't think other players are performing, make changes. And he didn't do that. And I just thought it was bizarre what he said after the game, to be honest.
I completely agree. And when you look at it, I don't think it was that lost us the game that he didn't make the changes. I think it was just an embarrassment for the players that were on the pitch. But when you do see Bentancur put in the performances that he's putting in, Udogie putting in the performance that he's putting in, and we've got clear replacements for those players, then you bring them on early. However, I was looking at Ange. I was literally looking at him for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes yesterday in this moment when we were going in and we were conceding goals. He literally stood on the sidelines there, arms folded, didn't move an inch, just watching it play out. Like, why aren't you trying to change the course of it? Whether I think it's going to change the course of it or not is irrelevant. He's the manager, like you say, and he's got to be doing more from the sidelines. But it was just an embarrassment from everyone.
Whether we're winning or losing, that's how he is. He always just stands there, because he said he likes to observe the game. He doesn't like to be influenced by too many. He's not like Conte, where he's going to be shouting.
I'm not asking him to shout, but there was clear lack of something on that pitch, and he's the one that should be giving it to them as well as the leaders on the pitch. And he is the manager. And why are you waiting until 72 minutes, 73 minutes to make a change when we've just conceded 3 goals in the space of 20 minutes?
No, that I agree with. And the fact that he said what he said after the game makes it even worse, to be honest, because it was almost like he knew, he could see what was going wrong, and he decided to keep it the same because he was so angry at the players or something. He decided to keep it the same. I don't know. I thought it was a really bizarre thing for Ange to say, and I think for sure he should have made changes earlier. As I say, I don't know if that's what cost us the game or not, but I definitely think it's on the manager when he sees what he's seeing in the second half to make sure that he's getting involved in managing the game and trying to get us a result instead of letting things play out like they did. And obviously we lost the game. I definitely, considering how we conceded the goals and a lot of that stuff, I definitely think the players have to take a large responsibility, because they were a shambles in that second half. And
I do think they take the majority of it.
And some of the mistakes, as I say, I don't think a lot of the mistakes were tactical or anything. It was just a shit show at the back, just complete mess, and players making mistakes left, right, and centre. And it wasn't even just like, I don't even think I can look at those goals and say that there's one defender who's a problem there. Like, for each of the goals, there's basically 2 or 3 defenders making big mistakes in each moment, just mistake after mistake. And it was just it was a bit of a clown show in that second half. Some of the defending, to be honest, was really, really disgraceful. But when you see things when you see Brighton gaining momentum, and if you're not happy with some of the stuff you're seeing on the pitch, like he said at full time, we're not doing the fundamentals, this kind of stuff, well, then get involved in the game and change it, and get some players on. Get Saar, who can win some duels. Get Basuma, who can maybe start patrolling the midfield a bit more. Get Spence, who can maybe has fresh legs. I'm not saying if get Spence on, he would have dealt with Minter, because Minter was having a good game, but at least, it stops Doggy's getting spun, and it stopped. I don't think Rutter, maybe Spence doesn't allow Rutter through like a Doggy did for that third goal.
All top managers would have changed something. All of them. You're telling me if Pep saw that from his team, he's not changing something very early on that second half. You're telling me if Klopp, he's not changing something very early in the second half. Arteta, whoever it is, Mourinho, Conte, all these managers would have changed something probably after the first goal, maybe even after the second. I think
first goal happens so quickly. You have to you don't know if that's a fair judgment of how that half is going to go. But definitely after the second goal, you've got to make a change, because clearly the momentum was shifting, and clearly something was happening after that second goal. Because I think the first goal happened after a couple of minutes, and it was a bad mistake from a Doggy. At that point, you're assessing, is it just a mistake from Doggy, or is it a problem with the team? But once that second goal goes in, you just know, you could feel it in the stadium. The momentum had shifted. They were getting on top of us. At that point, make a change immediately. Get Basuma ready, get Saar ready, make those changes, bring those players on. And then once it goes to 3-2, it's a different problem, because we go to 3-2, and then all of a sudden, now we need something different in the game, because once it's 3-2, you're now chasing the game, and you need all those attacking players to get back in the game. And we didn't have those on the bench yesterday. He brought on, obviously, the only one we had Moore, who was brought on too late. Maybe he could have turned to Bergvall, given us a bit of energy, creativity, because Maddison wasn't happening for him that second half. He was a bit of a shambles, to be honest. We definitely did suffer a bit not having the Odegaard, Son and Richarlison available just to come on and change the game and add something different. Obviously, Moore was only given 5 minutes. But in a weird way, I understand more not making changes at 3-2 than I did at 2-2, if you understand, because we had all our best attacking players on the pitch. And are you really going to take those players off when you're trying to get back in the game? But he should have taken them off when the game was still in the balance, just to get us back control of the game again, to get us back on the front foot while the game was still open. But once we went 3-2, it's like we offered nothing once we went 3-2. I don't know whether it was just fatigue, or I don't know what it was, running out of ideas, but we offered nothing once it went to 3-2, and it was like game over all of a sudden.
Yeah, the players had no belief whatsoever that they could get back in the game. The fans in the stadium had no belief that they could get back in the game. There was belief sapped from everyone to do with Tottenham Hotspur. The complacency was fully kicked in, and it was over. The game was completely over. And
but how can that be with 25 minutes to go?
I don't know.
But a similar thing happened against Arsenal. 1-0 down, and there was absolutely
We're
no
a terrible
belief.
team when we're behind, really.
Well, I think
we come back in it here and there, but on the whole thing, I feel like when we're up against it, we're not a good team at all.
Well, I think under Ange, weren't we, I don't know, last season one of the highest points coming back from losing positions?
I don't know. I don't remember. You tell me, you're the stat man.
We were at one point. I don't know if by the end of the season, but I remember in February, March time, we were quite good at, even though we would go 1-0 down, I think we were one of the highest teams at coming back and getting back in the game. But I don't know. It's almost. But I think it's almost like when we have a control of the game and then we let that control slip, we're very bad at reacting to that.
No way back. Oh man, I can't keep going through this with this club, man. It just kills me. It really kills me. But look.
Well, the frustrating thing is, we were in such a good spot and we were looking so good. I'm still hopeful that we're going in the right direction, and maybe this problem is something new because as I say, I think complacency and letting go of such a strong position is a new problem. That's not something that I think we've seen this season when we've had problems. Like the other games we've lost, it's been different problems. So this is something different Ange's going to sort. Obviously, always there are new problems that crop up in the season, and those are things you've got to battle against, and those are things Ange's got to figure out. He said at the end of the game, we have to that's something we have to deal with, and something I know that I can fix. And he said if I wasn't able to fix it, I wouldn't be in this chair. So it is a new problem, but on the bright side, if we can continue to start games like that and then not react in the second half like we did in that second half, then we'll be in a good position. But it's a harsh lesson we learned yesterday about you can't just think a game as won just because you're in total control. You have to make sure you keep your standards, especially off the ball, and not allow yourself to think that just because you're 2-0 up and cruising that the game is won. And I think complacency was a big element of the game yesterday, and we have to guard against that. But I don't think complacency is something I associate us under Ange usually, but that was something that definitely came in yesterday.
Just feels like they just got way too big for their boots yesterday, and maybe it's not something you associate with Ange in terms of complacency, but I do feel like a lot of this season we've been playing really well in first halves and then kind of let it slip a bit in the second half, and we just haven't kind of felt the fate of it so far, and maybe it's been papering over the cracks a little bit. And you know,
What's been papering over the cracks
in terms of our poor performances in second halves and not being punished for it.
Maybe.
Because we could have been, if those goals go in, the goals that, you know, Leicester created really proper gilt-edged chances in the first game of the season. And if those goals go in, we're probably having the same conversation here about that.
The only thing I can think of is the way we play. Well, clearly is a very intense way of playing, and we're always, you know, playing, always looking to take quick goal kicks and quick throw-ins and keeping the ball in play as much as possible. And when we're defending, we're intense and we're pressing. When we're attacking, we're always running intense. And I think, are we struggling maybe? It does seem to be a common theme once it gets to like 60 to 65. I mean, it happened earlier on Sunday, but usually once it gets to like 55, 60, 65 minutes, we start huffing a bit, and we ended up with, I think the Newcastle game we conceded a similar time, Arsenal similar time, Leicester was a similar time as well. We're conceding around that time.
We're actually terrible from the hour mark till like the 75th, and then we kind of get a second win towards like the last 15 minutes.
That's a problem, but that's an identifiable problem that Ange hopefully can see and has to be able to deal with. And is it a case of we just need to be making subs earlier, and we need to be getting those fresh legs earlier so we can keep up that intensity? Because at the moment, it seems as though for about an hour yesterday was about 45 minutes, but usually for about 55 minutes or so to an hour, we can like keep up that intensity. And then there does seem to be a drop off for about 10 minutes. So even against Brentford, they had that period, didn't they, where they were on top of us for a bit, and before we got that second win. Against Man United as well, they had that little
That's
period.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying in every game.
Yeah, but as long as you can contain that, which we did against Brentford and Man United, then it's something that's manageable. But maybe that's something he really has to look at and think, why do we have
you
these
talk about
periods?
containing it, but then what if the goals go in? Like, they could easily have gone in and scored goals in those games. We were just lucky that they didn't.
Yeah, but against this is Premier League. Against most teams you play against, they're going to get some sort of chances. You know what I mean? It's very rare you just go a whole game where the opposition have nothing.
Yeah, but it's about how you respond to that.
Correct. And as I was saying, we do usually respond. We usually have a second win. We didn't have that second win yesterday, which is a problem. But we have to work out why during the game we have these periods where we're dropping off, and they're dropping off that intensity.
And if Ange is seeing it, then why the hell are you not making changes?
That's the thing. But now, after 7 games, you can see that's a problem, and hopefully we can start adjusting to that. I do think, this season there's already been some problems which he spotted and we've adjusted to, and we've sorted those problems out. But now we've got new problems, and this is definitely a problem which is identifiable that he has got to sort out, and that is something hopefully he can do.
Do you think that in terms of the wins, 5 wins on the bounce just now, I mean, were we getting a bit too ahead of ourselves as a fan base, thinking that Spurs were on the right track, that Spurs were kind of turned the corner? Because if you look at it and look at who the wins came against, I mean, we beat Coventry in a terrible performance, turned it around in the last minute. We beat Karabag and Ferencvaros, who we should be beating every day of the week, let's be honest. And we go away to Old Trafford, who look like they're about to sack their manager, who are in a very bad moment. And
They
then
drew away at Villa.
Yeah,
No.
but Villa were knackered after that game against.
Still got a point. You expect Villa to win that game.
You do expect Villa to win that game, but I mean, I'm looking at Man United fans. They're complaining how bad they were, and they were lucky to get away with it yesterday. And the Brentford game at home, where we should be beating them at home. I know Brentford are a good side, but we should still be beating them. So, out of all those 5 wins, which one was actually impressive?
It's not about. First of all, the way we played was impressive. Whatever you want to say, I think it was impressive, and the way we played in that first half was impressive as well. So, I do think we did turn. I don't know, turned a corner as we've said. Even yesterday, there was some very good things about the performance, especially in that first half. I don't think the second half takes away from those 5 wins, in my opinion. And yes, no one will say we're going to win the league. I still think we're going to be competing for top 4 and all that kind of stuff. But that second half, definitely we've got to learn some very harsh lessons, and we have to learn some lessons from yesterday. I don't think we have to, just because we were terrible in that second half, detracts from the improvements we've made in the past 5 weeks, in my opinion. We've seen Brennan starting to score goals. We've seen Solanke really get involved. We saw that adjustment, getting Kulusevski in the middle with Maddison. We saw some good stuff from that even yesterday as well. First half, we contained Brighton really well, and I think we just need to carry on in that direction. I wouldn't like make wholesale changes off the back of that game. Like, I still think we're moving in the right direction. Just the second half was a harsh lesson of getting too ahead of ourselves and being complacent, and we have to guard against that. But
So then you do agree? Then we were getting too ahead of ourselves then?
no, that's got nothing to do with getting ahead of ourselves. In what way? What were fans saying? That was ahead
Fans
of ourselves.
said, well, we were all looking forward, saying, "Oh, we're just going to go on this big winning run. We were going to batter Brighton.
We should have
we'd
battered them.
completely turn the corner."
We should have battered them. We've turned a corner results-wise, and I think performance-wise, we're starting to score more goals. We were putting teams to bed, like scoring more goals. And even yesterday, 2-0 up at half-time. That's a very good situation. We've done really well to get in that situation. We got ahead of ourselves in that game. I wouldn't say we just because of that second half that takes off all the good work we've done in the last few weeks. I don't think it does, but it's definitely a big blow. Don't get me wrong, and I'm fuming with how they performed that second half. And we definitely got ahead of ourselves in that game, thinking the game was won. Maybe the fans as well thought the game was won at half time.
The fans did. There was a complacency through everyone.
Correct.
From the fans and the team.
Correct, but I don't think just because of that means actually the progress hasn't been there, and we're like back to square one. I wouldn't go that far, because we clearly showed yesterday. We, like, in that first half, we played Brighton off the park. We should have been out of sight, and the complacency was that we thought the game was won at half time. I don't think the problem is that actually this team isn't making progress, because I do think it is.
Yeah, look, I was just asking the question. I actually agree. I think that Spurs are on the right track still. I genuinely believe that, and I think that we have shown improvements. But the reality is, kind of this season so far, we're kind of like shoulda FC. We should have beaten Leicester. We should have beaten Newcastle. We should have beaten Brighton. We need to change the shouldas into we just did it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's been too many times now where at the end of games, we're sitting there thinking, oh, we played really well. We should have done this. We should have done that. We should have done this. We need to do it on the football pitch. And we need to do it for 90 minutes.
That's the aim of the game.
Yeah, and we're not doing it at the moment. We've lost 3 games already, and it's only, 7th of October, which is not good enough.
Of course not. And I'm sure, it's, I think points-wise, it's our worst start since Ramos, which isn't good enough.
And it's Man United's worst start to a Premier League campaign ever, or something crazy like that, and we're only 2 points above them. So this time last season, we hadn't lost a game yet.
Yeah, but then we went through a mad run where we lost 5 in a row.
Yeah, because of the injuries and all that.
Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't happen this time, and hopefully we have a more sustainable level performance. I still think we're on the right track. As I said, I'm fuming about yesterday, but I still think when the international break comes around, after the international break, I know we have to mull over this result for 2 weeks, but I'm still confident we can go into that West Ham game and win. I'm still confident we can get back on track after the international break. But it's a big blow, especially when you're 2-0 up and cruising. It's a big blow.
When you look at it as well, like Ange, when we were on this good run, it was just before yesterday, he was saying in his press conferences, like, yeah, we're playing really well, but there's still going to be bumps in the road. You know what I mean? It's going to be up and down. We're still kind of dealing with a lot of change that's happened within the squad. We've got very young players as well. It's not just going to be, as he says, a linear process where it's just going to go up and up and up and up and up. You're going to see things like this, but still, the traits and the mentality that we saw in that second half is kind of inexcusable at that moment in time, and it's up to the players to turn it around now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is it. That is our match review from the game yesterday. Let's move on and get into the player ratings. We're going to start off with Vicario, 6s all round for Big Vic, and I don't think Big Vic could have anything to say with the goals he was left at point blank range. For the majority of them, I think he made 1 or 2 good saves, and again, I thought he was commanding and stuff from his crosses. So I don't have any problem with Vic yesterday, but he did concede 3 goals, so he can't get a high rating.
He conceded 3 goals from 4 on target. But yeah, as you said, like I can't think of he could have done anything with the first goal. Definitely not the third goal. Second goal could have made himself a bit bigger, but it's a good finish from Rutter anyway. I don't have a big problem with Vicario. The only thing I would say is in that second half, when we were trying to play out the back, and clearly, you know, they were fresher and a bit more on top of us. Could he have just gone to Solanke a few times and just got us up the pitch and go direct to him and get him to hold the ball up?
I was getting frustrated with that a bit second half,
so we probably should have done that a bit more. Maybe that could have relieved the pressure a bit, but we didn't. So
yeah,
that's that. So I gave him a 6.
Pedro Porro up next. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 4. I think it was for the first goal, he was just completely out of position and got completely done by Mitoma, I think it was, on that left-hand side. And Mitoma was giving him a really hard time for the most part. But I think when you're looking at the defenders, the back line from Udogie, Romero, Van de Ven and Porro, I think he probably comes out with it with the most credit, but that's not really saying much.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably give 2 ratings for all these players, first half and second half. But first half played really well, was a threat down the right hand side, had some good deliveries as well, and but even in the first half, Mitoma gave him a bit of a tough ride. But in the second half, Mitoma was just having the freedom of that left-hand side, and Porro just couldn't live with him, to be honest. And this is what I was saying in the preview. If you allow Mitoma to just relentlessly go at you, he's going to get joy, 100%. And in that second half, that's pretty much what we allowed to do. We just allowed him all the space. And Porro really, really struggled in that aspect, so gave him a 3.
Cuti Romero, Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 3. I mean, his defending for that last goal, just to let Welbeck, it wasn't just him, it was Porro as well. Just completely drift past him was absolutely inexcusable at 2-2 after you've just thrown away a 2-goal lead. And I just felt like in that second half, there were just some poor traits from Romero where he's the captain, he's got the armband on at that moment in time when Sonny's gone. So he's got to be showing those leadership abilities, and he did anything but that. I thought he was poor, he went missing, he went hiding at times. In the first half, I thought he was actually really good in terms of, you know, he was getting on the ball, playing some really nice balls into the midfield and out wide, but yeah, second half is what he's going to get marked down on.
Yeah, shocking second half, to be honest. I thought first half on the ball he was just phenomenal. Some of his passing over the top. He played that beautiful ball for Maddison over the top, which Maddison should have done better with as well, with a beautiful run in behind. But he was just picking out these passes, and maybe it's because he had time on the ball or what it was. But I thought he was so good in that first half. But second half really let himself down. I thought for the defending for the second goal, when he just slides in rashly, was really poor. The defending for the third goal, where he just switches off and allows Welbeck, albeit it took him by surprise, when he just allows Welbeck to run off him without even looking at him, and by the time he realised where Welbeck was, it was too late. Just absolute shambolic switching off, and it's happened too many times this season, to be honest, and it's becoming a trend. So after what I thought was some really good performances from him over the past 5 games, really let himself down in this one.
Yeah. Mickey Van de Ven up next. 3s all round for Mickey. Lowest mark of his Spurs career, to be honest, by far. I thought I don't know what Mickey was playing at yesterday. For the first goal, he slices it. For the second goal, he just looked completely lost. And there was a number of times when Minter was just taking him to the cleaners as well. Really worrying in there from Mickey.
Yeah, it's something you don't associate with Mickey, but just weak in the challenge. There was a few times. There was one in the second half, which I think they got a chance from, where he's down the left. He comes across on the left-hand side. He's up against Minter, and he just puts a really weak challenge in. And Minter's just allowed to stream past him. It's like, this isn't the Van de Ven that we've seen week in, week out. Especially he had a break on Thursday as well, so he should be fresh for this game. But he just looked completely out of sorts here. And in those tight spaces, I thought his defending for the second goal, like just allowing Rutter to breeze past him and get the shot off when he's got him and Udogie. They both have control of that situation. Like, Rutter should not be getting a shot off in that situation, but he couldn't get near him. He just couldn't get a tackle in when he did. it was just a lazy leg, and they were weak challenges, and that's really something that you don't associate with Van de Ven. As you say, mistimed the slide for the first goal, which obviously Udogie ended up miscuing, and I just thought overall that second half was a disaster. Like when he got close to players, his challenges were weak, and just something that's really, really not like Van de Ven, to be honest.
Destiny Udogie, Sim gives him a 3, I gave him a 2. Pretty much had his hand in all the goals we conceded. I don't know what the hell he's doing for that first goal. Seriously, he kind of misjudges it and then does nothing to respond to that. In the second goal, completely lazy challenge from him, looked completely lost. And in the third goal, Rutter, I think it was, completely sold him down the river, and I don't know what he's doing. And with Udogie, he's been so strong defensively and so strong offensively for pretty much since when he's got back fit. I think he's been absolutely brilliant, but I don't know whether he was just still coming back from this injury that he's just had. He wasn't fully fit, but that was an unrecognisable Udogie display in that second half, and he let us down, unfortunately.
Yeah, mistake after mistake, to be honest. And I think he probably should have been taken off early. I think he played 90 minutes in the end, but he should have been taken off because he was really having a tough time against Minter in that second half. Those mistakes for all 3 goals were, I mean, the one for the first one and the third one are completely inexcusable. The second one, him and Van de Ven, one of them has to be dealing with it. Again, he puts a weak challenge on Rutter, allows him to maintain the ball. Even if it means getting a foul outside the box or something, there's a covering defender there. The worst it's going to be is a yellow card. You've got to be stronger there. Allowing Rutter allow him to get the shot off is so poor. The first one, he miscues the clearance. Look, that can happen in football, but the way he reacted to it, just stood there and watched Minter put it in. It should have charged him down and at least made him rush the shot. Allowed Minter to just take his time to get composed and shoot was really, really poor. And then the third one, I mean, just how he allows Rutter to nutmeg him and get to the byline is completely inexcusable. How is allowed? I don't know how he's allowed him to do that. Just he completely lost his way in that second half, and he was lucky to stay on the pitch. I don't know why he wasn't taken off and Spence come on, because he was just struggling badly. Probably easily his worst display in a Spurs shirt, I would say.
Rodrigo Bentancur, 3s all round. Again, he just went completely missing in that second half. Brighton completely dominated us in the midfield, and he was a massive part of that. I can't remember which goal it was, but he needs to be clearing that from the edge of the area. I mean, embarrassing from him. And he should have gone off a lot earlier. Bissouma was there ready and waiting to come on to give us that extra legs in midfield, which we were crying out for. And he didn't do that. I mean, he went off, in the 72nd minute or something like that, but it should have been a lot earlier than that, in my opinion. And I don't even think he was that good in the first half either when we were on top.
I agree. I actually think first half was one of his poorer games as well. I think, again, similar to Van de Ven, just very poor in the challenge. A few times he's going for a 50-50 and he's coming off second best, and that wasn't happening against Man United and Brentford. He was actually getting on top of those challenges. I don't know what happened in this game, but he was very weak. And too many times he was coming off second best, and we're getting put under pressure. And as you say, that third goal, I mean, is inexcusable. He has to deal with that situation. He's in control of that situation. When the ball goes to the byline, he's getting there ahead of Rutter. He could put out for a corner. He could touch the ball back off Rutter. He could do anything, apart from what he did was just try and see it out for a goal kick when Rutter, just all he has to do is slide and keep the ball in. And yes, it's a good kind of cross off a slide tackle, but still, Bentancur had complete control of that situation. He gave up control for no reason, and it cost us a goal. And so poor. So yeah, as well as Udogie, I think he should have been taken off earlier.
Kulusevski, 6s all round for Decky. I thought he was brilliant in the first half. He was a constant thorn in that Brighton side. For the opening 20 minutes, I thought like he was the complete conductor in that side, where he was making stuff happen. He was dangerous, unlucky to come off without a goal contribution as well. But second half, I think actually he was one of the only ones that did keep his standards, to be honest. It was just unfortunate that no one was on his same wavelength. But look, he just couldn't make stuff happen on his own.
Yeah, I thought first half he was terrific. He was causing Brighton all sorts of problems. He was getting down that right-hand side, linking up with Brennan. He was playing some really good balls in behind as well, and they struggled to deal with him that first half. Second half, he had a couple of moments, but obviously as Spurs lost control, he wasn't getting as much of the ball. I also think he was part of that midfield that just completely lost control of the game. I don't think he off the ball he was good enough, to be honest. He needs to make sure that if he's going to be a long-term pick in this position, which I really believe he can be, he can't have moments like that where he just allows the opposition to gain control, because he needs off the ball. He needs to be a lot better. But on the ball, he kept trying things. Obviously, he was stayed on, and he's such a powerful runner that and his stamina was still there, which was good. But unfortunately, lost control of that midfield in the second half.
Maddison up next. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 6. Again, first half, I thought he was getting on the ball, trying to make stuff happen. I thought Kulusevski was a lot better in the middle, to be fair. Does get his goal. To be honest, his goal wasn't even a good finish. It was a really terrible mistake by the keeper. But he does get the goal, and second half just completely missing. He didn't stand up for the team as a vice captain.
He was, I thought he was good in the first half, and he'll feel a bit annoyed with that chance as well, where Romero plays him from goal. And he just waits an age to get that shot off. He's got to be doing something a lot quicker and allow the defender to block. He obviously did get his goal, which got a bit of luck with a poor mistake from the keeper. But second half, I thought he was terrible on the ball, just offering very, very little. He had that one moment where he had Werner to his left and he decides to just take a wild swing from like 25 yards, which was never going to go in, and ends up like going in the top of the stands. He was rightfully probably taken off at that point as well. Just after that, he offered just not much. I think I would have liked to see Bergvall come on, just because at that point we were 3-2 down and we needed the added spark, which Maddison lost. But we didn't. But yeah, I thought was very, very poor in that second half. And off the ball, offered very little.
Yeah. Brennan Johnson, Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. Obviously, he had a very good first half, getting another goal, 6 and 6 for Brennan. And he was just a constant threat. He really was down that right-hand side. We were really opening them up at will down that side at times with him and Solanke and Kulusevski working their magic. But again, second half, he's another one that, well, I say another one, it was the whole team that just couldn't stand up, and we just couldn't break them down for love nor money. And I felt like he as well went a bit missing in that second half.
Yeah, obviously he got his goal, which fair play to him. Really good finish, makes it 6 and 6. And I thought he was again also really good in the first half. He'll be a bit frustrated that chance he had right at the end of the first half where he went through and he blazed it over the bar. At that point, that's 3-0. Maybe that could have been the moment that really sealed the game. But obviously, second half, but like the rest of the team, was shocking. Couldn't really get involved in the game. But I thought of the front three, he was having a really strong game. So I gave him a 7.
Next up is Timo Werner. 5s all round for Timo, and I thought he was actually playing well in the first half. He was beating his man at will down that left-hand side, putting crosses into the box. That first minute, he breaks the lines and gets in behind, and he plays that ball to Brennan that just had a bit too much on it, where you either... It's not the hardest pass to make.
It's not, yeah, he should have laid it on a plate.
Laid it on a plate for Brennan, who would have had an open goal, which was very frustrating. But it's just a constant theme, isn't it, with Timo? He can get past his man. He does everything right in the build-up up until that final moment, final passing or shooting moment where it lets him down, unfortunately. Second half, he was completely anonymous. I can't remember him getting on the ball once, to be honest. And he does get an assist, though, for Maddison's goal, albeit it was just a simple pass.
It was, but he still has to get in that position in behind. I thought he was giving them all sorts of trouble in that first half. Veltman really struggled to deal with him when he was on the ball. Every time he got the ball, he seemed to be able to get past Veltman and get to the byline. And I thought he was causing him a lot of trouble, albeit yet again with Werner, his final ball a few times definitely let him down, especially with that one in the first minute. That's got to be on a plate for Brennan. That has to be an assist there. But I did think he was giving them a lot of trouble first half, but second half was back to his worst, to be honest, because completely anonymous, giving the ball away, didn't get involved in the game. The only thing he did was have that shot from 25 yards which blazed over the bar, and other than that he just did very, very little, and again rightly taken off. Probably could have been taken off earlier. I would have liked to have seen more a bit earlier, because he had that run right at the end of the game, didn't he, where he gave the right back a bit of trouble, and maybe if he had a bit earlier could have seen more of that.
Dom Solanke, 7s all round for Big Dom. I thought he was absolutely brilliant in the first half. Had his hand in both our goals. The assist was brilliant, and he had a pre-assist as well, which was lovely playing the build-up. And he was just working in tandem so well with the likes of Brennan Johnson and Kulusevski in that first half. And I'm really loving the relationship that those three are kind of building on that pitch. Second half, look, with Dom, I love his build-up play and I love his physicality and the way he can press and everything like that. But I would like to see him be more of a bit of a goal threat as a number 9. I feel like he's not being as much as a goal threat as maybe he was at Bournemouth. But I think every other facet of his play is absolutely brilliant. So that's good. But in the second half, yeah, like you said earlier, that, you know, Vicario probably should have gone long to him and used him a bit more. But he kind of was just like not used at all in the second half.
Yeah, and I feel like his pressing wasn't as good in that second half as well, unlike the first half. First half, he was, you know, I think we're nearly talking about 8 or 9 out of 10. He was that good. They just couldn't live with him. Every time he got the ball, he was playing some beautiful passes in behind. He played that pass to Werner through in the first minute. He played the pass through to Brennan for the goal. Beautiful way of pass, by the way, because Brennan doesn't even have to take a touch. He just finishes it first time. Another great pass. He played the pass through to Werner, who then set on Maddison as well. So every time he got the ball, he was just the perfect way of pass through to the wingers who were getting him behind time and time again. And a lot of that was down to Solanke, and his overall passing really was on display yesterday with some really good through balls and really made use of the space. Yeah, second half we weren't getting him involved. I don't know whether it was he wasn't showing for the ball or we just had a reluctance to go direct to him, but either way he was anonymous in that second half. He wasn't getting the ball at all, and he really struggled to get involved, which was a shame. But first half I thought it was excellent, and it's a shame he ended up on the losing side. Yeah,
Pape Matar from the substitute. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. Probably came on a bit too late. When he did come on, he won his duels. That was the main thing, because none of the other players were winning their duels. So that's the only really thing I can say about Pape.
Yeah, I didn't have too much to complain about. The only thing is really at that point we needed a bit of guile and creativity, and he didn't really offer that. But at least we kind of got that bit more possession, and we were dominating for that period, but we offered very little going forward. So I don't really have much to say about Sarr.
Bissouma, Sim gives us a 6 again. I gave him a 5 again, and pretty much the same as Pape. You know, they both came on and kind of stemmed the tide of, you know, Brighton with the mad chance creation they were creating against us at will. But they helped us add those legs into the midfield, but that was about it.
Yeah, I think they stemmed the tide a bit. I don't remember too many chances that we conceded after they came on, to be fair. So I think we quieted down. By that point, they're already 3-2 up, so they're probably just defending the lead. So again, at that point, I don't think he did too much wrong, but probably didn't help us, you know, try and get back in the game either.
And last but not least, Mr. Ange Postecoglou, 4s all round for Big Ange. And at half-time, you're probably giving him a 9 or a 10 with the way that we were playing. Absolutely brilliant. I thought the team that he picked kind of picked itself at the beginning of the game. Couldn't really, unless you're going to start Mikey Moore over Werner, but I never really expected him to at the end of the day. But second half, when you see the team is struggling, you need to help them out and you need to make changes on that pitch. And he didn't do anything to try and stem the tide of that game, and made the changes after it was too late.
Yeah, even if you just make a sub just to slow the game down a bit and just, you know, get some messages to your players, all this kind of stuff. And that was really frustrating. I feel from a bit, because 2-0 up and cruising and we're playing so well. Like, I don't think he would have envisaged how the second half went. And as well, as we said, I don't think the goals we conceded were down to, you know, our structure and how we kind of were set up tactically. A lot of it was to do with just players being weak and not putting challenges in and making really poor mistakes, and 3 players around a Rutter and him getting through. That's nothing to do with Ange, but Ange definitely has culpability with how he managed the game, for sure, because he said he saw things and he didn't change it. So I've got to put a lot of blame on him for not managing to stem the tide, and your job is to manage the game and try and get involved in the game, and he decided to take a step back for some reason, and I got to criticize him for that, because you're a manager of the club, and whatever you feel like how the players are playing, like if it's their fault what's happening, and it might well be their fault, but it's your job to try and get involved in that and try and change that. And he decided for some reason not to before it was too late. So I got to mark him down for that.
Also, I agree with that in terms of it was the players' fault majority, but when you see a team come out with a clear lack of passion, lack of fight, complete complacency, doesn't the buck always stop with the manager? Like it's his job to motivate these players. You're coming in at 2-0 up after a really good performance. It's his job to keep that going, not to. And if they lose that will and they lose that and they have that complacency creep into the game, the buck always stops with the manager.
Of course, and if that keeps happening, then that's what will cost him. I'm hoping this will learn from this, and Ange will learn from this. Maybe second half he didn't drill into the players enough that we need to make sure we're staying on top of them, and we need to be as aggressive as we were in the first half, because we did come out in the second half as if the game was won. And I don't know if that was a messaging from Ange or the players took it upon themselves to be like that, but the buck will stop with Ange for sure. But it's, as I've said, this isn't a problem that I think we've seen as much under Ange as other problems. So hopefully this is something we can learn from and deal with.
All right. Well, that is our player ratings post-mortem from the 3-2 loss against Brighton. Before we get into the 5 takeaways, let's go through these super chats. Calvin says, Brighton made tactical adjustments at half-time. We didn't and played into their hands. That's on Ange. As much as I like him, he needs to sub quicker. Pretty spot on, to be honest. KPV, who was actually in the comments saying that we're being too harsh on the players. He says, embarrassing performance from the whole team, and we're shit. We won 5 games in a row, then we go and lose to Brighton. I think you should stop being so harsh on the players, Mr. KPV. But member for 31 months, big up to yourself. Seatal, member for 5 months, says, these 3 points would have been huge, but it's not over. Yeah, obviously it's not over. It's only 7 games into the season or whatever it is. But it's just a hard one to take. It's just so hard to take when the game was literally there in the palm of our hands. It was literally there, right there, 3 points. And
a win,
away.
and a win would have been past, I think it's 6th and only a point behind the top 4. And all of a sudden, we're really getting back into where we should be. And now with that loss, we're in 9th, and all of a sudden it's like 10th or whatever. And now it's our worst start for 16 years, and all the narratives change after one half. And that's and considering how good we were going that first half. So for basically the last 5.5 games have been brilliant. Then all that kind of just disintegrates with one half of football, and that's just hard to take.
Yeah, and now we've got to sit on it for 2 weeks as well. With West Ham coming around the corner, you know what West Ham like to do whenever they play us. They're going to play like prime Barcelona, but we got to play like the best team that's ever walked the planet of the earth. I'm joking. Faz Radfar 3-1 to Spurs says, fine margins. We would have talked about a title if we had won.
Oh, that would have been far-fetched, I think.
Maybe Ariane would have been talking about a title. Anyway, let's get on to the 5 takeaways. And first up, we're going to be looking at lack of fight.
Yeah, and Ange was very much insistent that, we were lacking that fundamentals in the second half, not doing the basics, not winning our duels, not competing. And I think the stats speak for themselves when it comes to that, and the stats tell a story. First half, Spurs won 68% of their duels and 80% of their tackles. Second half, we won 54% of duels and only 40% of the tackles. And I think, Welbeck said at the end of the game, Hertzler was at halftime just talking about how you need to up the aggression. It's all about being up for the fight in that second half. And it's not all just about tactical switches, all about also players taking responsibility. And they did that in the second half, Brighton, and we thought the game was won, and we completely abandoned our personal responsibility for those fundamentals. And I think the stats tell the story as much as the eye test.
And that's the hardest bit to take about this game, because, if Brighton just play out their skin, and they did play really well, and we showed a bit of passion in the game and lost, it would have been hard to take, but it would have been nowhere near as hard as what the players showed. And, we haven't seen this lack of fight from a Spurs team. You take it back to Brighton last year, yeah? Brighton completely outplayed us, went 4-0 up. But look what happened by the end of the game. We could have ended up 4-4 if we would have taken our chances. And I don't think we go 4-0 down because of lack of fight. They just outplayed us on the day. And, if you get outplayed on the day, I can take. But I can't take a player showing clear lack of fight and pure complacency going into that second half. It's just the hardest thing to watch as a football fan. Number 2, we're going to go and look at Brennan keeps the run going.
Yeah, probably the main positive, though any positives yesterday, is Brendan did make it 6 out of 6. We didn't even mention that in the review. We didn't talk about it much, but really good finish, another goal on his left foot as well. I actually thought he was really positive that first half. Overall, he had 2 key passes, 3 shots, 4 out of 5 ground duels won, 3 tackles as well, and completed one of his 1 dribble. So at least he was actually putting some hard yards as well. He's probably, I don't think he was one of the worst defenders when it came to Spurs dropping their standards in the second half. But happy for him. He kept the run going. Obviously didn't mean anything because we lost the game, and that's going to be the main focus. But 6-6, when is it going to stop?
It's not. It's never going to stop. We don't stop. Apparently,
it's a good finish as well. Confident.
Really good finish. And you're seeing good finishes from him week in, week out at the moment. You're really starting to see Brennan evolve at the moment, in my opinion. He's a really important part of the team now. And only a few weeks ago, I was saying, he's only good from the bench. He's coming on and making impacts, but when he starts, he doesn't really make much of an impact. But he's making an impact every single game now, which is a delight for all of us. Next up is a first for Ange, but not Spurs.
So it's the first time Spurs under Ange have given up a 2-goal lead and end up not winning a game, and something that is, it's a new problem for Ange, because usually when we go 2-0 up, we're actually very good in those situations. That's what he said after the game as well. Usually when we've got control like we did yesterday, we're actually very good at managing those kind of situations, and especially when teams, come at us and they leave space, we're very good at exploiting that. But yesterday that didn't happen and it cost us. But as I say, first for Ange, but definitely not for Tottenham, because Spurs became the first team in Premier League history to lose on 10 separate occasions, once being 2 goals up. I don't know if we want to get all depressed. Can we remember all 10? I don't remember.
Don't even start.
That was Man United.
Don't even start, please.
I think it was the first time since we lost to City a couple of years ago under Conte, when we were 2-0 up at half-time. We ended up losing 4-2. Emerson scored that day.
But there's even games that we didn't lose, like the West Ham game.
3-3.
3-3.
But this is talking about losing, but yeah, we probably have a whole record for not winning when we are 2-0 up.
And I think the team below us in that record is in like 3 or 4 results below us.
That's why they call us Spursy.
Yeah. And no matter who the manager is, no matter who the players are, these games always follow us around, which is just Spursy. That's all it is. That's why they call us Spursy. Yeah. Number 4 is Solanke contributes.
Yeah, and I thought Solanke obviously had a really strong as first half at least anyway. And this is what we were saying about Solanke before we signed him, because as much as obviously he was bought to be a bit of a poacher and score goals, but he offers so much more than that, and I think we showed that yesterday. A brilliant overall play from him. His hold-up play was fantastic in the first half, and on 3 separate occasions he played Werner through on goal, which he should have made more of. He was involved in the second goal when he played another good ball to Werner, who set up Maddison, and he got a brilliant assist for Brendan Johnson with a brilliant through ball. Some people saying his passing was shades of Harry Kane yesterday with some of his through balls, but brilliant pass for the assist for Brennan. Didn't have to break stride before slowing it home, and he's really showing what he can offer. It's a shame that we couldn't build off that in the second half, because he didn't really get involved as much, and I think he lacked supply more than anything, to be honest, in that second half, Dom Solanke. But first half really showed, even without scoring, what he really provides for the team in its system.
And you know what? Big Dom has actually surprised me so much since he's come to this football club, because I knew he was a really good presser. And I feel like from a number 9, he's probably the best in the league at what he does in terms of pressing. I knew he would get goals, because that's what he showed last season for Brighton. Wasn't 19 goals in the Premier League last season? But I didn't know how good he was at like kind of dropping deep, build-up play, link-up play, his passing. I never knew he had such good passing. So he's surprised me a lot in terms of what he's brought to this team. And it's a credit to him as well, just how seamlessly he's kind of just fitted in as well. He hasn't taken a transitional period or anything like that. He's just slotted in like he's been there for the last 5 years. So it's a massive credit to him. But like I said in the match review, the only thing I want to see more from him now is getting to more goal-scoring opportunities and positions.
I think he's getting the positions. He just needs better supply, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
I think Decky should have found him in one of those moments. Right. And like, hopefully that'll come. But he's still got 3 goals. Not terrible.
Yeah, true. And last but not least, the 5th and final takeaway, a worrying start statistic.
Yeah, but after the loss yesterday, it's actually points-wise after 7 games our worst start since Juan de Ramos back in 2008, which obviously famously got 2 points from 8 games, and it obviously got himself sacked.
This ain't quite
October.
2 points from 8 games.
Not quite. This is 7 points. This is 10 points from 7, so it's a far cry from that. But it is points-wise our worst start since then, and so from that point of view, that is a bit of a concern. But hopefully, we don't let that slide too much after this game. We still came into this game off the back of 5 wins, albeit 2 of them, 3 of them win cup competitions. But yeah, that's a fact. And all the talk about Ten Hag having, Man United's worst start in their Premier League. I mean, it's not our worst start in Premier League, because I'm sure probably in the 90s we had very bad starts. But I don't know whether that's to say we usually are fast starters and we slow down, or is this something to be really worried about? But
I think we are usually fast starters.
Well, a lot of false dawns. We are known for our false dawns.
We are known, yeah. But if you're looking at the fixtures ahead, West Ham at home, Palace away, Villa at home, Ipswich at home, and Man City away. So a few hard ones in there, but we should be getting... How many points do you reckon in the next 5?
It's so hard to predict. You never know. With
West
Tottenham.
Ham at home, we got to win that. We got to respond from that with a win. We just have to. I'm not taking anything but a win.
Knowing Spurs will draw to Palace and then we'll beat City.
We're usually good at Selhurst Park.
Yeah, true. You just never know what Tottenham. If it's so hard to predict, because I just think the Premier League is so competitive. Apart from when you're looking at teams right near the bottom, it's very, very tough. But
I know it's hard to predict, but it doesn't mean we can't make a prediction.
So what, the next 5? But the City game's a cup competition, isn't it?
No, City in the league.
City in the league. So what's the next 5?
West Ham at home.
Mm-hmm.
How many points? 3 points.
3 points.
Palace away.
3 points. I mean, I can say 3, but we might well draw. But
that's what a prediction is. You're not always right in a prediction.
I would say, I would say 4 points at least from Palace and Villa.
Okay, so you're saying
we'll
West Ham win,
one.
Palace win, Villa draw. Doesn't matter which one we draw
Yeah.
and win. Ipswich at home, we got to win.
Yeah.
And Man City away.
We'll lose that probably. So how many points?
That's 3, 6, 9, 10.
10 out of the next 5. Out of the next 5, out of the next 15 available.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be acceptable, I guess.
All right.
Take it.
That is your 5 takeaways from the game, and we move on. We finish off on an episode of Reacts where we look at around the internet and see how the internet has been reacting to the game yesterday. We're starting off with Lily White Lab, who says, pure mentality issue this loss, nothing on Ange, although he needs to lay into the players after this one. Have to have the desire to defend your box. Porro, the only one of the back 4 who can hold his head up high. Bentancur jogging over to block Rutter's cross was particularly embarrassing. Mm-hmm. So there are things I agree with this. I mean, that's what I said after the game, that Porro is the only one of the back 4 can hold his head high. I don't think he can hold his head high, but I just think he comes into it with least damage over the other 3 of the back 4.
Yeah, I don't remember him having, as much as Matoma gave him a tough ride, he didn't have too many embarrassing moments like Udogie, Van de Ven and Romero did.
Yeah. And Bentancur jogging, obviously that was very embarrassing. But to say that there's nothing on Ange after this game, I think I don't think that's true. I think when you give the game away like that, there has to be something in there about the manager. Like, he's the one that trying to motivate the players. He's the one that didn't make the changes up until gone the 70th minute. So as much as I agree that it's mostly on the players, Ange does have to come under criticism.
Of course, I don't think he can be absolved of criticism just because it wasn't totally his fault.
Yeah,
he has to take some blame.
Next up is Johnny H saying, this to me is seriously worrying reply from Ange to the question, were you tempted to make your subs earlier as the game was turning away from Spurs? I can't quite believe what I'm reading here. Can you? At least we know why he just stood there and let us capitulate. And the comment was, yeah, I could have, but all these things are totally irrelevant to me. Substitutions and all those kind of things. If you're not competitive, it doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to get rewards. You don't deserve to win. We didn't deserve our second half performance, irrespective of subs or anything else, to get something out of the game. But I think if you do get something out of the game, you're falsely rewarded, and I don't want to get falsely rewarded.
I'm trying to understand what he's saying. I think he's trying to say, like, you can't just blame. You can't just put down the fact that we didn't get anything out of this game because we didn't make subs, because the players have to take some personal responsibility for how they're performing out there. And yes, I might make a late change. Let's say I bring on Will Lancashire in the 90th minute or something, I bring on Will Lancashire and he gets a last minute equaliser and we end up scraping a result. That might happen, but it doesn't mean we deserve to get anything out of the game. So I think that's what he's trying to say. But like, in my opinion, as when you're a manager and you're watching things unfold on the sidelines, your job is to try and use your substitutions, or use what you're seeing on the pitch to try and change the game. Get involved in it. Don't just allow things to happen. Try and change them yourselves. If you think this guy's not trying or that guy's not, haul them off and bring a sub on and get.
The problem was there was too many of them though.
Yeah, maybe, but you've got to try and change it yourself, or even just to disrupt the flow of the game, disrupt the momentum of Brighton, who are clearly getting on top of us. Get some changes on and change it earlier. And I don't like the whole thing if you're not. I understand what he's trying to say, but I think it's a bit bizarre to say I'm not going to make changes because we didn't deserve anything out of the game. But that's like, we'll change it up and see if you can change the momentum of the game. And he didn't want to change it.
Yeah.
Didn't want to get involved.
But apart from bringing Basuma on earlier and bringing on Spence for a doggy, what really could he have done to change that game?
I agree. Actually, at 3-2, there's not much he could have done. But before that, he could have.
At 2-2, what would you have done?
Get someone who's going to put more tackles in, put more duels in, who's not going to just keep putting in those weak challenges, actually going to win 50-50s, because at that time we weren't.
So Basuma and Spence, basically.
I would have brought Sarr on, I would maybe Bergvall on, maybe maybe change that whole midfield. I would have brought Spence on earlier because Udogie was clearly struggling. Maybe even Dragoshin, because our defender, maybe someone just win some duels in the centre back. Just get people on, because at the moment the guys out there weren't winning their duels, and if the people on the bench are going to do that, then if you can see that's happening, get involved in the game and make changes.
Jake Yedlin says, you haven't been a Spurs fan for long if you didn't think they'd leave us to dwell on a horrible performance before an international break, no matter how good our recent form has been. And I saw a lot of tweets about this last night saying, we just always lose before an international break. Every single time.
I can't remember the last time we won.
Last time was Newcastle.
Yeah.
I can't remember back to last season. You've got a better memory than me, but it just seemed to be like we just lose every single game before an international break.
Just makes us mull over this for 2 weeks. Absolutely right, Ed Yedlin.
M says, imagine calling the cameraman to zoom in on you and then dropping that second half performance. The bloke bleeds Spurs.
Madison is Spurs. 100%. Very so Spursy.
Oh, God. Spurs resident says, feel like shit, just want him back.
Yeah, we could do with Sonny, that's for sure.
I had a lot of people speak to me about Sonny over the past week or two about, look, we look so much better without Sonny. No, we don't look so much better without Sonny. If we would have had Sonny in this game in this run of 5 games or whichever games he missed, we would have looked even better than we were.
Agreed. I don't look, as much as obviously I was frustrated with Timo yesterday. I don't think he's the reason we lost, though. Not having.
No, but if Sonny is in that position, he probably puts in a bang on the money cross for Brennan, and then we go 1-0 up early, and we probably finish the half at 3-0 up.
Maybe. I don't know if we're guaranteed to be more than 2-0 up just if Sonny plays in that game.
Well, he's going to put that on the money for Brennan.
I know, but I'm just saying I'm not convinced. Like it could have easily just been 2-0 with Son on the pitch as well. It's not like if we're Son, it would have been 4-0 at half time. I don't think
he just adds that extra quality, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure he might have got a goal or assist, but doesn't mean he would have got more than that, if you know what I mean.
I just think we're always more likely to get more goals when Sonny's on the pitch than when
Agreed.
Timo's on
I'm
the
just
pitch.
saying I don't think swapping Timo for Son would have necessarily changed the game.
Carly, come on you Spurs, says, heading into the international break after yesterday.
Yeah, kind of.
That's how I rolled out of bed this morning, ready for this stream.
Just struggling.
No context Tottenham.
People were saying Andrew's statements yesterday were reminiscent of Conte. Would you go that far?
I didn't think so, no.
He did go very hard against, he was kind of saying no fundamental. Where's the sense of belongings, as Conte used to say?
It's true, but I felt like Conte as well was like laying into the board and stuff in that press conference, and I don't think Ange would ever do that.
No, yeah, I don't. Yeah, he wasn't going to the ball, but he was definitely going in on the players.
And damn right he should do.
But Conte went in on the players, not trying all that stuff, and where there's no team and all that kind of things. Maybe Ange didn't go that far, but he definitely was going in on the players. He said it was his worst. What did he say? It was the worst defeat
as
and
Spurs
he said
manager.
that was the first time under his tenureship that he's seen players just drop the fundamentals, and that's kind of what Conte was saying.
Look, I think Conte was just laying into everything and anything about the club. I think Ange has a bit more grace about him than that.
I wouldn't say it was as bad, but people are comparing it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it's that comparable. Spurs Watch, Ange Postecoglou says, worst defeat since I've been here. And it to be honest, it was. Can you think of a worse loss than this?
I mean, Fulham, that was bad.
What, in the Cup?
No, we lost 3-0 away to Fulham. That was terrible. Just after beating Villa.
Yeah, but I classify this as worse than that because in that game we weren't at the races for the whole game and we just weren't good enough on the day. In this game, we were clearly good enough because we put them away in the first half. It was a clear lack of motivation and fight in the second half that didn't win us that game. That's the most worrying thing.
I think it was the most frustrating defeat, that's for sure, because of that aspect. I think the other defeats, they were just like sad and depressing. This is just really angry, inducing and frustrating because we had the game in the palm of our hands as own. We just shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, I know. And, we had a whole 2 hours in the car afterwards. I don't think we said one word to each other on the way back.
Couldn't believe it.
Oh, God. Squawker says Tottenham are the first side in the Premier League history to lose 10 games from leading by 2+ goals. It's the history of the Tottenham.
Only Spurs could have that stat, honestly. Only Spurs.
Who's second?
Maybe Everton. I don't know. I'm just making no idea. Maybe West Ham. I've got a feeling it might be West Ham.
Jack Pickbrook says basically was the defensive frailties inherent is just how the manager wants to play, or was this just terrible application and lack of focus? And it's definitely the latter, in my opinion.
I think on this occasion, for sure. There have been occasions where we have been carved open and we look to open whatever. I just don't think... yes, we were open, but I don't think it was the case because of the way we set up. Like, I think... As we've said, like, I think there's a tweet we'll look into in a minute, but like the positions we're in, like we should be able to deal with them, and it was just really terrible individual moments that meant that they were able to get chances out of situations they should never have been able to get chances from.
Next one, this is just Ange on the sidelines yesterday.
Yeah, he just looks shell shocked, didn't he?
Absolutely
fuming. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
he just looks so angry.
Up to Joe. This is the 10th time that Tottenham have lost a Premier League game with 2+ goals. The first club to hit that. Oh, we've been through that. But Hotspur Central saying these are the moments just before each of the Brighton goals. We're not overly exposed, not set up poorly, and on the face of it, should be in control of each one of these situations defensively. Switched off and weak in these moments. That should have been relatively basic to deal with. And this is what I was saying in the match review. Like, it wasn't anything to do with Ange's tactics or Ange's settled defence or rest defence, whatever you want to call it. This was basically down to sheer incompetence and sheer individual errors.
Go into the pictures. So the first one, can you go into them? Oh, no, it's you. You have to go into them. Look, can you zoom in?
No, you can't. Well.
You can. Look, so here, there's 2 defenders around the ball, like without a Brighton player like looking he's going to score there. Like that should be easily dealt with. That's not because of Ange that goes in. That's just a terrible clearance from a doggy. The next one. That's a pretty settled position here. Yes, Matoma has the ball, but Romero's got Matoma. Van der Ven is he's got Rutter there. The fact that they were able to just get on the ball and have that quick interchange, that should never have been allowed to happen. That's not too open. That's not a bad defensive structure. This one's the worst one though. How from that position? Not only do you have 3 players around Rutter, you've also got Bentancur in the penalty area, just ready and waiting for Rutter to wriggle past that situation, and just in case. And you've got 2 players on Welbeck on the back post as well. There, that position's also covered. So not only should Rutter not in a million years be able to wriggle out of that situation, But Bentancur should be coming over. I mean, he did come over, but he should be putting out a play. And you've got Welbeck's 2 players on Welbeck. And from that situation, he was able to get to the byline, and Welbeck had a free header. That's just inexcusable. Inexcusable.
Sneha saying, first half fun, second half funeral.
Yeah.
And that's literally how the whole away end felt yesterday.
Honestly.
Yeah, and that's it. That is all we have for Reacts for you today. So, yeah, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today for the post-mortem, which was 3-2 to Brighton at the Amex yesterday. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.